Welcome to the Race for the Talent in the GBA webinar today. My name is Maggie Ngan, your host of today. I'm a business development manager for the asset and wealth management industry at PwC, where we work with our clients to navigate their journey from strategy, fund establishment to ongoing maintenance and compliance. I'm also a proud member of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, a nonprofit, non-governmental government organization that was created in 1977. As of today, we're very proud to have over 1,900 members representing nearly 300 countries. This makes us one of the largest Canadian business organizations outside of Canada and one of the most active international chambers in Hong Kong. So for the non-Canadians listening in, it is very important for you to know that we are an inclusive and diverse community. About 40% of our membership they are non-Canadians, and everyone is welcome to join. So what do we exactly do in the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong? We deliver 4 services into our members: representation and advocacy engagement, business promotion, networking, and brand exposure, learning and training, and last but not least, information and insights. So today we are bringing you a conversation about the hot topic, the Greater Bay Area. And we brought along a group of expertise of panel. I would like to welcome you and introduce you to our panel speaker of today. First, Kristina Koehler-Coluccia, Head of Business Advisory from Woodburn Accountants Advisors. Kristina have over 16 years of experience in helping foreign investors to sell their products and service into the Chinese market and passing on her knowledge on local and national business regulations in China and Hong Kong to foreign companies contemplating investment there. She works with over 500 international companies across industry and sectors on their market strategy, implementation, and growth in China. Kristina is also an author of the book, The 10 Biggest Mistakes Companies Make in China. Welcome aboard, Kristina. The next speaker we have is our HR strategy expertise, Jackson Kam, Regional Practice Leader of Mercer. Jackson worked across China, mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau in the past 10 years. Jackson also led talent projects for a large number of multinational companies and Chinese company, including state-owned enterprise, private-owned enterprise in the Greater Bay Area. Jackson is a key member of the Mercer GBA team and also expert in HR strategy, operation, and HR consulting. Welcome, Jackson. So last but not least is Michael Faass, who is on the ground in China today. He's a Senior Director of Panasia Solutions with over 20 years of business experience in China. Mike have on-the-ground experience establishing and improving companies' China infrastructure and operations, managing product development and scale up of manufacturing and export finished consumer household and electronic goods. Mike worked with overseas companies ranging from startup to large multinational brand partners. Welcome, Michael.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Awesome. So before we get started, I would like to pause and acknowledge some of the key members of our community who are participating to today's event. So welcome, and first, John Crawford, a governor of Ken Cham, Hong Kong. Gabriel Chartier from the government of Quebec in China. Joanna Chen from the Alberta government. Casey Kwok from Hong Kong Academy of Finance, and some members from our platinum sponsor, CK Infrastructure and Sun Life. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to put in your comments or questions through the chat box. We're happy to answer any question throughout at the end of the session. So without further ado, let us begin this discussion. Are you ready, speakers? So before we get started, we're going to focus on the Greater Bay Area, and let me kind of set the scene for what this region really means. So the Greater Bay Area, known as the GBA, consists of Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 other cities in the Pearl River Delta region. This including Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Foshan, Jiangmen, Shaoxing, Huizhou, Dongguan, Zhongshan. It has a population over 86 million, and it has a GDP of 1.6 trillion US in 2020. So among these GBA cities, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Macau were classified as the 4 core cities to drive the development of financial services, logistics, transport, and tourism in the Greater Bay Area. While the 7 NOC countries should feed off the strength of the core cities and specialize in high value add manufacturing, pharmaceutical, energy, and other industries supporting the development of the core productivity cluster. So this plan facilitates the in-depth integration within the Bay Area to enable the region to a stronger economy and allow residents in these countries to enjoy a higher quality of life through enhancing the infrastructure linkage and deepen collaboration among countries. So as of today, we know that there are more than 20 companies from the global Fortune 500 companies that have headquartered in the GBA area. So I think now that I set the scene, I wanted to pass on the question to Jackson on what makes GBA unique and potentially stand out from the other established revealed Bay Area like New York, San Francisco, and Tokyo.
Yeah, I think many people compare the GBA to these other Bay Areas. The first thing that stands out about GBA is that it is huge. If you look at the population of GBA, it is actually more than Tokyo and New York Bay Areas combined, the population. And in geographical area, if you look at the map, it is actually bigger than San Francisco, New York, Tokyo Bay Areas combined. And there are also other statistics such as like the flow of goods, the container terminal throughput, etc. GBA actually has a terminal throughput 4 times more than the other 3 Bay Areas combined. So in terms of scale, it is of a different league. So this itself is a interesting characteristic that set it apart. I think I would also like to point to the fact that the diversity and the breadth of industry in the region is actually quite substantial. If you look at the industry that GBA is already strong in, as well as some of the new ones that the government is trying to nurture, you have financial services, you have technology innovation, you have manufacturing, you have logistics, you have trading, you have culture, you have leisure. Other Bay Areas may be 3 or 4 of these things, but GBA, you are all in one. So from a talent perspective, because today the topic is mainly about talent, right? We have also observed some inflow of talent from other Chinese provinces into the GBA. So meaning that it is acting like a talent hub or talent magnet, that if we play the game well, we'll continue to attract talent. So all factors make it really, really interesting for GBA to be both a talent hub and a business market.
No, thank you, Jackson. I love it that you call it the term talent magnet. So I think I'm going to start using the terms. Kristina, from a China expertise, what do you see, what makes GBA unique?
Well, I think let's take 2 steps backwards first and just say, in general, during this pandemic, what areas, which countries are growing? Where are the growth opportunities, right? So, are people going to invest right now in this moment in time in places like San Francisco and Tokyo and New York versus China, where the expected GDP growth for 2021 is going to be between 6 to 8%, depending on what you read and where you read those stats. So I think, first of all, let's look at the growth opportunities that are existing in general in our region, right? There's nothing like it. Then I just also think that the GBA consists of 3 nations, Macau, Hong Kong, and China, Southern China, right? Which in itself are mature markets. So I relate them to Western countries like New York, San Francisco. If you're going to establish your business in a place like Hong Kong, the legal side, the infrastructure side, even the talent pool side, the language capabilities, it's all there. So you compare it to New York, San Francisco, Hong Kong, Tokyo, it's all up there, right? In terms of availability. And then just from my side, the Greater Bay Area, you know, Shenzhen was one of the first cities to open up in China to foreign investors. So we're looking at a mature market in itself compared to other cities in China. Like Jackson said, because it's a mature area, talent wants to go there because it is where there's such a variety of industries, but the industries are also more mature, the expertise is more mature. It's not like going into a tier 4 city and it being a bit of a wild nation, right? You're actually no longer in this hardship living environment as it used to be in the past. So, you know, in general, just to sum up, I think it offers such great opportunities to newcomers that are looking to expand internationally, expand into a growth growth country, growth jurisdiction, and then the variety of industries that are available there is tremendous.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing insight here. Thank you, Kristina. So we just mentioned about the inflow of talent, right? So maybe we can move on to our next focus, where the 14 5-year plan that was listed out last year, we emphasize on this plan. It also meant on widening the access between the region on the flow of people, capital, information, right? Which we focus today is the people part. So I'm quite curious for Michael, that being on the ground in China, what are the opportunities we are already seeing in the region since the blueprint have gone live? And then after that, we'll come back to Jackson and Kristina on the longer term opportunities seeing from a foreign company side.
Well, first of all, I'd like to just thank the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong for the opportunity to join everyone today. And it's quite an exciting time to be in China. As my introduction alludes to, I've been here 23 years in Greater China. And to be honest, I don't think there's never an exciting time to be here. I think it's always exciting to be here. You know, I've seen a lot of changes since I've come. People are always asking me, are there still opportunities? And the simple answer is yes. I mean, China is a continental market, and the GBA is your entree into that continental market. You know, you're looking at a country geographically the size of the United States, but with a 75% greater population. And the development of that has all centered on a few focal areas, Beijing, Shanghai, obviously, Chongqing as well. But I think it's beyond doubt that the Greater Bay Area, focusing on Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou, is of great importance to the country here. And therefore, it's promoted very, very highly. Since I've come here, I've been able to see a growth in infrastructure. You know, the high-speed rail didn't exist when I first moved here, and now you are connected within 8 hours to pretty much any city in China, even as far northwest as Sichuan. I know when I first went to Sichuan, my wife is from Sichuan, so when I first drove there, the first time it was a 22-hour drive. Now by highway, you make it in about 16 hours, and by high speed, you'll make it in about 13, 14 hours. So that in and of itself is quite amazing. And that type of approach of being able to reach into the Nadi, into the hinterlands, if you will, really kind of typifies the development that I've seen since I've moved here, with Shenzhen being a core. I know that a lot of when I first came here in the early 2000s, there was one subway line in Shenzhen, and I think now there are 17. And what you've also seen is 20 odd years ago when I first came here, there was manufacturing deep within Shenzhen, and now you're starting to see it all moved to the periphery. So when we talk about the Greater Bay Area and all of the cities like Huizhou, Dongguan, Zhuhai, Zhongshan, Foshan, and the list goes on, a lot of manufacturing has spread out to those areas. And you're seeing cities all developing their own cores as well. You've seen a rapid integration of subways and roadways, and quite frankly, it's pretty amazing what's going on here. All of that leads to, you know, as we said, an innovation magnet. in Shenzhen, you don't need to speak Cantonese. It's one of the only cities that I've ever been to in China where you don't need to know a local dialect, because everyone from Shenzhen isn't from Shenzhen. To actually meet somebody who has an original family member from Shenzhen is very, very rare, and it doesn't happen a lot. You have large immigrant populations from Hunan. You have large immigrant populations from Sichuan coming here and working, as well as other parts of the country. So it's really amazing. You get top talent. You know, the Tencent and Alibaba all have major presences in Shenzhen, and it's quite amazing. And just to let you know the level of development of the city now, we now have 2 Tim Hortons. So once you've reached the level of Tim Hortons, you know, you've reached that higher level of development that we Canadians all aspire to. So, I mean, you know, to try and talk a little bit about the benefits of being located in this area, quite frankly, when I came here 11 years ago permanently, I had been based in Taiwan before that. I, on purpose, chose Shenzhen and have worked in the Guangdong area simply because you can get in a car and drive wherever you need to be, whether it's plastics, metals, PCBAs, whatever you need, chemicals, whatever you need for your product. You need engineers, you need designers, you know, everything is close by, and you're able to have the entire supply chain within arm's length, which is really, really good. So another thing is, as we said, it is a talent magnet. So, you know, China graduates more engineers than any other country in the world combined, pretty much. I think they I don't have the exact numbers, but I know they're quite high. Property values have been increasing, which is leading to, again, a development of the hinterland, where factories will sit on land and then they'll eventually sell that land and move their manufacturing inland. And then you'll get a growth, a turnover in the property that is here. So like I said, in Shenzhen, you'll notice there is no manufacturing there anymore. It really has become more offices and service oriented, which is part and parcel of a great advantage for us in the Greater Bay Area, because you start to have service providers like being able to help you with company formation, filing taxes, finding headhunters if you need to find talent, finding people whose English levels and university scores are quite high. So it's fantastic from that perspective. And in terms of, you know, government help, I know today I was reading about a tax incentive program. I think it's called the Preferential ITT program, which provides small, medium enterprises that set up in the mainland a rebate on their first 1 million RMB in profits, as well as offering 50% rebates in personal income taxes. Those are just some of the benefits of this program that are being introduced. You've seen I don't want to say a relaxation of visas. You've seen a reallocation of the way that they apply for visas, to try and attract better talent from overseas, and not just better talent in terms of like better talent that's suitable for the type of development that they're looking for. So I think I could go on and on.
You got me very excited, Michael. Once you talk about Tim Hortons, my mind had just been feeling that double right there.
Yeah,
so,
I'm going to have to go for one after our talk here.
Yeah, that will be my incentive coming to the Greater Bay Area. So yes. I think from you speak a lot on the SME perspective and the sourcing opportunities that is on the ground. I'm quite curious with Jackson helping some of the companies entering into the Greater Bay Area, and what opportunities do you actually see that are raising right now?
Yeah, actually around the end of 2019, I think it's a few months after the policy details of GBA was announced, my company conducted a survey among the major foreign MNCs in China regarding what they think about GBA and what opportunities they see, etc. Actually, over half of these companies already have done some assessment of the opportunity and firm up some plans on the initiatives to take advantage of the opportunities. Of course, different industries, etc., are different, but I would just mention two particular opportunities here for your reference. The first is basically looking at the location of pockets of talents within the GBA, because GBA is a 9+2, right? The type of talents you can find in different locations basically different. So, and the cost of labor is different. So aligning your organization in terms of structure, location of jobs, realignment of the entire ways of working and processes so that you can take advantage of this distribution of talent so as to optimize the cost and increase the efficiency. This is something that a lot of MNCs are currently doing. Some have finished already. I think in the old days, like back 20, 30 years ago, you are talking about moving some back office function from Hong Kong to South China, right? But now the mobility has increased so much that you can move a lot of other things as well. So that's number one. The second one, I think, is combined with a recent management trend for companies all around the world, is changing from a traditional organization to an agile organization. So you're talking about agile units and mobile teams and scrum teams, etc., etc. So in GBA, we have seen a lot of our MNC clients setting up some teams or roles like this that can actually be mobile and roam around the different cities within the GBA. So this substantially increased the flexibility, as well as I think increasing the agility of companies doing things. So I think if you want me to just name two, these are the two biggest trends we have seen in the market right now in terms of taking advantage of the opportunities.
Thanks, Jackson. So moving on to Kristina. So thanks, Kristina, for such an early morning in Europe. We'll definitely have to treat you a coffee when you come back to Asia.
Wouldn't mind a Tim Hortons as well.
So what are the long-term opportunities that the businesses within the region or foreign companies should keep an eye on from your view?
Well, I'm seeing two industries that haven't been mentioned yet that I'm meeting, I have a lot of contacts with, and one is education. So education can mean a whole variety of things, but I think if you look at the entire population that we've been speaking about for the Greater Bay Area, there are a lot of schools, everything from UK schools who are looking to franchise into the Greater Bay Area to facilitate that. That in itself will come with challenges because of the regulations in the education sector. But there's also the whole group of education providers that are doing career counseling, because again, we're looking at these modern industries that are popping up in the Greater Bay Area and educating those talent on how to acquire those types of careers in the financial sectors, in the banking sectors, in modern services like the digital media agencies, etc. So there's a lot of companies also pooling out there to do this type of career advisory, career consulting. And then also there are still this whole pool of people who want to be educated abroad and have that experience abroad, whether it is for their university degrees or for internships. Now, obviously, we're not talking about COVID, we're talking about post-COVID and the long-term opportunities, right? But I do see that there are these education companies helping the talent to get these opportunities abroad for a certain period of time so that they can bring back that expertise that they've acquired and grow then in the Greater Bay Area as well. So education is one side. Jackson was mentioning that historically there was this idea of having Hong Kong and using Shenzhen, Guangzhou as back office. I actually still see that. And I do see that because, again, the advantage of the Greater Bay Area is that you're agile, right? So you'll have a certain group of people, foreigners, who want to live in Hong Kong, not necessarily in China, because, again, there's better benefits to be in Hong Kong, not only from a living standard, but also from a tax perspective, family environment. And then they do have this team of people who would be slightly cheaper than those in Hong Kong, and they still formulate these back office administration. And again, my clients are more SMEs, so I'm not looking at the big, large multinationals. It's really these small companies who have this ability to be agile by having something in Hong Kong, but also by having something then in Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Dongguan, wherever it might be. And most of where I see the longer term opportunities, as Michael said, is, there is less and less interest in manufacturing. There is more and more interest in service-oriented companies, because again, that's what the Greater Bay Area is trying to attract, and people are flocking there for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that from our wealth management industry as well. There are a race of wealth management. Of course, you saw the Wealth Management Connect just went live a few weeks ago, and we have, pumping up with digital wealth management platform and funds. The fund industry is definitely also looking into that growth and opportunities as well with this region.
I mean, we haven't highlighted also the big fish, which is e-commerce, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, there are a lot of companies that are also much more comfortable in doing a cross-border mechanism in Hong Kong, but then also starting to do domestic e-commerce out of Shenzhen, because again, the logistics ability, the warehousing space that's available, and the groups of companies that are based there, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that comes down to that all the opportunities, and with interesting time we are here, being with COVID and with all these development going on, where I think the key feature of the Greater Bay Area we just mentioned is the agile, the connectivity. But with COVID pandemic, well, borders are quite tightly sealed, and traveling seems to be impossible mission. I think we all wanted to be able to either get on a high-speed train or to cross the border, or if not, get on that golden ticket on the plane and at least have a meal of a flight meal. But I think for Michael, maybe to start off with you, it will be interesting to see what are the impact you're seeing businesses and the talent pool in the Greater Bay Area with the COVID pandemic situation.
Right. Well, thanks for the question. But before I jump into that, I just wanted to address something that in Kristina's last section, I started to think of, which was one thing about the benefit of the Greater Bay, and I also take advantage of it in some of my company setups, is the fact that you're able to use the legal jurisdiction in Hong Kong. I do a kind of outward, inward facing type of business arrangement sometimes, where our company in Hong Kong is able to sign contracts and to promote to our clients and our customers that we operate in a common law jurisdiction, and the contracts that we sign are binding and secure for them. We're then able to operate in mainland China with our domestic Chinese companies to enter into NDAs and IP protections domestically, so that we actually have domestic Chinese companies signing contracts with domestic Chinese companies, which we find are more enforceable. So this is type of I think kind of like the flexibility that some SMEs would be looking for. It's proven something that my customers quite like. So
having choice, right? It's the beauty of having choice in terms of how you want to structure your contract, structure your business, and having that agility to choose what jurisdiction you like for what type of transaction.
Well, it's for maximum effect, because I know a lot of foreign companies that are not based in China, if they sign a contract that is under the terms and regulations of the PRC, the laws of the PRC, I don't know what kind of legal standing that they're going to have and what kind of advantage they're going to have if things do end up, going south and they have to go to court. It's much better to have a domestic company. All contracts are in Chinese. That everything is done in the right proper way here. If you've done a WOFE, a wholly owned foreign enterprise, then you would want to do that in China as well. But to be able to have that where you're in control of your enterprise in China, and you're also in control of your outward facing enterprise in Hong Kong or whatever other country you're talking to, therefore it gives you an extra element of control, which people are always looking for, companies are always looking for. So yeah.
No, thank you, Michael.
Okay, so
back to the topic on
back to the topic at hand.
Of COVID.
Apologies. I need that Tim's.
No
I can't focus without it.
Yeah, it's great that you just talk about that complexity of legal, right? So for those people that might not know, Greater Bay Area, we have all these population, but you're also sitting on three legal framework. So how do you combat them as well? But I think, putting back on the spotlight, COVID-19 really do impact, things are happening, before people used to come to China and get their sourcing done. How does it really happen on the ground now with the
Well,
borders tightening still?
right now, there's a lot of people trying to promote sourcing online. I mean, we've always had the Alibabas of the world, the bane of my existence in my formative days. I never knew how I could compete against people sourcing product off of Alibaba until I realized that they're all trading companies anyways. But there's a lot of that. I know that the Canton Fair is going to relaunch in the middle of October here very soon. So there's going to be a physical show. I don't know who's going to go to it because nobody can come in from overseas unless you want to quarantine for a minimum of 21 days. So I don't see a lot of foreign visitors coming. I know that they're running a virtual show as well online, but as someone who lives and breathes factories, like I'm, to quote a friend of mine, I'm never as live as when I can smell the grease of a tooling shop and hear the pounding of a press. So I don't know. I can't source online. I mean, I can, but in the end of the day, I still have to be on the ground. I still have to go see who I'm going to work with. So I don't know that there's any getting around that. I know that our business, since COVID has started, has really exploded in terms of customer and client needs. First, it was masks and PPE because people want someone they can trust. Yeah. And then it's been larger companies who want to say move to Vietnam, but then they realize that they can't. Vietnam's closed too. So what are you going to do? You need that management. You need the feet on the ground, so to speak, to be able to handle situations. So some companies are biting the bullet and sending talent over and force and going through the quarantine, and others are trying to do like we're here today, doing Zoom instead of meeting face to face. So those are a couple of the strategies that have been employed.
But do you see talent, internal talent wise, do you see the people flow stopping because of COVID?
In terms of in terms of overseas, yeah, in terms of Europeans and North Americans and foreigners in general, people who were here on people who were not in the country at the time that COVID started had all their visas canceled. As far as I understand it now, they're able to reapply for visas. However, you have to have a special letter. It's called a PU letter, and it has to be granted by a specialized company. I don't know which company can offer that to you, to be honest with you. I would have to contact an agent to get them to provide a company that could offer that type of letter so that you could then enter the country. So business visas and tourist visas, they're still, the kibosh is still on them. I know even in today's paper, I was reading that there will be no foreign visitors allowed for the Olympics. So if you see anyone with a Canadian flag at a hockey game in February, look a little close. Hopefully it's going to be me. But yeah, that's become a real challenge, getting visas. People who've been here a long time have had to leave because their visas expired, and eventually they weren't able to renew, and they had to leave. And basically, if you have to leave, you're not getting back in. So it's
no, thanks, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger question is, with COVID, when we talk about talent pool, are we talking about foreign talent pool or local talent pool? Right? I need to differentiate those two things. And
in terms of the foreign talent pool,
nothing is happening.
Correct.
I know foreigners who've been offered jobs in when I say Greater Bay, I'm talking about China, right? Shenzhen, Guangzhou locations, where they've gotten the offer, but they still don't have a PU letter. And now it's 6 to 8 months later, and they're like, do I accept the job or don't I accept the job? I need to earn an income in some shape or form, right?
And yeah, and another example, an anecdotal example is I'm the director of operations with a company called Castus. We do antiviral coatings for glass. So it's a very prescient product category to be in. So we coat like electronic glass. And I wouldn't be with that company as we speak if it hadn't been for COVID. They have not been able to come here for over 2 years. They have been in the process of setting up a wholly owned foreign enterprise. And because the Faass, the legal representative and the secretary of the company are Irish, they can't get into the country. And therefore, they can't go to the bank to be in person to set up their bank accounts. Therefore, their company has been stalled in its setup for over 6 months. So there have been issues like this that have been happening quite frequently.
Yeah, and I think that just leads on to the local talent pool, right? So I think as a foreign investor coming into China, I'm trying to change people's mindset in the fact that if you still want to go into China and you want to grasp at the opportunity that exists there, you're going to have to rely on the people that are on the ground. Right. And we're promoting that the talent is highly skilled. So many of them might go to companies, they might go to companies like Michael because Michael's a Westerner on the ground, but his staff are all the local talent, right? He's not hiring only foreigners within his organization. So, it's about mindset and getting over that mindset and saying, okay, if we want to push forward, we're going to have to hire people locally to push the business forward. Some are keen on doing that. And, I have clients who've hired staff that they've only met over Zoom. They've never met in person. And they're relying on the fact that they can kick off the business until they can start traveling there. But at least they're pushing forward, right?
Yeah, to your point, I mean, there are a large army of what the Chinese call a haigui, sea turtles, and they're returning Chinese. So you've got a pool of Chinese who've been educated overseas, be it a lot in Canada. I know that whenever I go to an alumni night put on by the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, I'm usually a visible minority. So they're very talented. They're very well connected. You've got that talent pool as well. So there are, and the one thing about the Greater Bay being a talent magnet is, you've got Guangzhou, you've got Shenzhen for higher level talent. I would say one of the reasons why I do stand out, I think, though, compared to that type of talent is quite frankly, it's just the Western business mindset, or being willing to make I'm willing to make a call at 2 p.m. in the afternoon when everyone's asleep in Toronto that maybe a local hire might not be willing to make just because of the way that it works. But that aside, there's, we do rely on local talent to be force multipliers.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point about the whole local talent part and, the talent pool itself. Obviously, myself is just one of the sea turtles that, came back, born and raised Hong Kong, returned from Canada. So next time you'll see me swimming in the pool in the glass of wine at a meet and greet. But so I think you just mentioned the talent pool, right? Like we can localize it. But what happened if there's like a big pool? There's only one pool to combat, right? Like organizations are growing. GBA is a growing magnet right now. There is talent pool, but border is still not open. I would be interested to hear from Jackson. What business can get prepared to get ready for GBA, and not going into a talent pool fight, and what are the solution there might be there to combat these?
Yeah, I think the first thing to note is a lot of my Hong Kong friends say, oh, we don't have digital talent in Hong Kong, but there are loads of digital talent in Shenzhen. But I'm telling them, even in Shenzhen, those digital talent are very sought after. The supply is not going to meet the demand. So I think it is absolutely a war for talent. And if it is a war for talent, to prepare for the war, you need a plan, you need an overall talent strategy. So the best advice I can give to companies would be try to map your business strategy onto your talent strategy, which is essentially about a clear picture of what type of talents, what skills, what's the quantity you need in what location. And if you need these people to be mobile, then what's the mobility requirement for the different roles, and how much are you willing to pay to get a good and qualified talent in the role. So I think these are very important, and unless you have a clear picture of that, and try your best to find the best mix of channels to acquire such talent, then you're going to be slower than your talent competitor, and you're going to lose out. So that's the number one thing. You need to have a talent strategy. But then two subsequent issues usually come for companies in GBA. The first is regarding HR practices differences. So say, for example, we sometimes have clients with offices in Hong Kong, Macau, Zhuhai, Shenzhen, etc., etc. And if you look at all the salary, the annual leaves, the bonus, stock options, and other severance package requirement, etc., they're all different. And if you want to move talent from one place to another, being quite mobile, people may see some of the differences as unfairness. So how to harmonize the HR practices across the region so that it will seem fair, and I think you have equity among the different offices and promote mobility among the talent. So that's another hurdle I think you need to overcome. Otherwise, you just have a collection of fragments of talent and not connecting with each other. And talking about that, I think culture is another thing. It's like Hong Kong Chinese and people born in Guangzhou versus some talent in Shenzhen, but originally from another province. How to get them to work together effectively and efficiently. I think there's a lot of cultural sensitivity and cultural integration work required. So if I'm a CEO of a company, these three things are the things that comes to mind. We need to get it, I think, sorted out. Otherwise, having an effective team will be just a distant dream.
Yeah.
Just one point I want to add as a tip, just a practical tip in terms of what I do in talent. I'm in the accounting profession, so I'm hiring accountants. I'm extremely proactive in doing continuous candidate searches, and I never stop. So this is something that, for a lot of SMEs, they might say, well, we don't have an HR department. How are we going to be able to continue doing a candidate search? Well, once a month, you can just set it in your timeline to say, you know what, I'm going to send out an ad on LinkedIn, on WeChat, and just say, I'm hiring, and gather those resumes, filter through them so that at the point where you need to scale up and hire people, you've already got a pool right there and then that you can reach out to. Obviously, they might come back and say, we're not available, we don't want to switch. And particularly with COVID, I'm finding that candidates or employees, they want stability, they don't want change, because you still have to go through a probation period, and they want security. But I think always doing this continuous search of talent has helped me tremendously to keep this pile of resumes on the side in case, I need to scale up or find new talent or whatever the case might be.
No, that's great, Kristina. I think that adds on to what we just mentioned about, mapping that business strategy into your talent strategy, never look at just the opportunity itself, but how do you actually execute it as well. So cautious of time and wanted to make sure we leave time for Q&A. We have some question already in the inbox. I will move on to our last forward-looking session, where we just all mentioned about talent, the talent pool, the education, the moving part, the sea turtles, but how does government policy could harmonize to facilitate these integrated pool of talent to nurture the growth within the GBA? So maybe Michael, being on the ground, what do you see, what do you feel that, what could the government policy could help with these talent struggles?
Well, I think that the government would do well to, I don't know, I have to be careful what I say here.
Of course.
I mean, right now, one of the concerns that I have being here, I was starting to have more concerns sometimes recently than hopes, as I see like English taken off the Gaokao, and I see the closing of Bushy Bands, and I see the power issues we've had in the last couple of weeks that are probably going to extend to the end of the year. I mean, I would love to see the government have a more open door policy and as opposed to closed door policy which seems to be what we're seeing at this point in time. I mean, in terms of what they've done locally, I mean, their push for just for how they want to mobilize the workforce and how they've made it so that this area does have all the different types of, people that could work in the service industry, or people that would be more suited to manufacturing, or plans like that. It's been quite good already. One thing I can say is you always see plans in action. So, like we talk about the high-speed rail, to talk about living here in Dongguan, I actually live out in Dongguan, which is, I'm close to Shenzhen, but it's not developed at all like Shenzhen. But the government, Xi Jinping was here, I think maybe a year and a half ago. And then following that, what a flurry of construction. And now there are office buildings going up. The factory zones here are closing. Factories are moving out, and new roads and new lights and new power. So I mean, I guess I would say to continue what they're doing is kind of what I would hope to see, because so far when it comes to economic development, they've had a very solid long-term approach. So.
Yeah, for sure. And, thanks, Michael. Earlier, Kristina and Jackson also mentioned about cultural, right? So I think Kristina, Jackson, welcome your views on this about the cultural part. What could the government policy can attract talent into the Greater Bay Area? Obviously, there are a lot of talent pool in Hong Kong, Macau, and the 9 cities in China, and each of these have different characteristics. Welcome your thoughts here.
I'll just say something that Jackson said earlier. It's the agility to be able to move within these 3 regions easily, and not have your income tax impacted, your salary impacted, right? Because it's a different tax system, income tax system in Hong Kong, Macau, and China. So that just makes it more complex. What I would love to see is this unity in the area, and this unity in terms of just being able to travel. I'm saying post-COVID, right? What I would like to see in the future is just this agility to be able to move freely, where you don't have to get visas. You don't have to get certain things in place. You don't have to go through paperwork to be able to easily move around the 3 regions. Maybe
No.
I'm hoping too much, but that's what
I
I would love.
I
That's what
totally
I would
agree
love
with
to
you.
be able to see. And I think if they have the ability to do that, you might find a lot of people from Beijing, Shanghai wanting to come down to experience that mobility, right? Between
For
the
sure,
3 regions.
or other Asian countries as well, right?
Exactly.
We're talking about APAC. We're just the gateway here.
Right.
And I think that makes the Greater Bay Area quite unique.
Right.
So I think cautious that we maybe I'll pass on the last questions to Jackson before we move on to the Q&A. So Jackson, what could be done with the training and upskilling process in the various sector of demand in GBA?
Yeah, I think if you look at countries that have a plan and done it well, Singapore is one great example. They design for the various industry a future skill framework. So in the next few years, medium or long term, what kind of skills are required? What are the gaps, and what are the plans and development actions to fill the gaps, etc. I'm not saying that we need to do that necessarily for a GBA level, but at least for companies and organizations, perhaps we should have a clear picture of what are the current and future skills required. What are the critical ones we need to pay attention to? Like if you want to be an innovation center, what are the critical skills? And plan some programs. This can be by the government, by the university, or by the industry themselves, to make sure that we continuously upgrade our talent. So that's number one. The second one is I think we need to be aware of the changing age mix of our workforce. So a lot of them are no longer millennial, they are centennial, they are Gen T, they are whatever letter they come up with these days. And we cannot have classroom training anymore. We need to have like a WeChat mini like a lesson, and you need a multi-pronged approach to make it happen. I think so long as we can catch up with the era, catch up with the latest demand from the talent and try to train them well, I think many learning will be mutual, peer-to-peer, and automatic.
There's
Okay.
actually a fantastic app in China called ATM, and it is an educational app that companies can use in-house based on their sector and industry, and you learn from the app. And it offers, and it's available to all employees, and it's up to them whether they actually want to educate themselves on their own industry and sector and different aspects about that industry and sector.
Yeah, I think user experience is quite important, right? Not just about talking about going to market when it comes to customer, but also that talent, you know, in terms of the training and the upskilling, is how do you cater to your user within your organization, that could help with the talent race. So thank you very much for all the time. 8 minutes left here. We wanted to be able to answer some of the Q&A came in. So maybe I will start off from the very first question that just came in. Compare with the other mature economic cycle cluster around Beijing and Shanghai, how GBA stand out to attract inflow of talents from other provinces? Michael, you took on you took the first step to answer back. You want to get started and
well, okay, thank you. I mean, the first thing that jumps to my mind is the fact that Hong Kong. I think Kristina touched on it earlier. We've talked about it a little bit. Being able to jump around 3 regions. I know that Shanghai and Beijing are great. They're very exciting cities. But I mean, Macau offers attractions that a lot of my customers and friends like to take advantage of on the weekend, and maybe the next weekend they want to go shopping in Hong Kong. So you've definitely got that interplay. Of course, we are talking in a non-COVID environment, so hopefully we'll get there soon. But definitely that is the reason why a lot of people I know live in Hong Kong and will refuse to move to Shenzhen. They're lucky that transportation is so convenient, because otherwise they would be in for some very long days.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that is one of the, and I think culture also played a huge part, right? Because if you wanted to attract, I have a Western mindset, no matter I have a Chinese background, but that makes me more comfortable to know that if I go to the Greater Bay Area, I will get the similar experience.
Correct.
On why you do things and what do you need to do.
Right. Well, I mean, one reason why I moved to this area when I came. So I was originally in Taiwan for 13 years, and I used to go to Hong Kong for shows, and I used to love my week in October and my week in April in Hong Kong. It was a fun time. And when I chose to relocate to the mainland permanently in 2011, I had a lot of friends trying to get me to go to Ningbo, where there's some manufacturing heart, especially for steel, of China. But I moved specifically to Shenzhen because I would be in China. I would be in a new city in China where everybody, because a lot of people, I don't know, I'm sure our listeners are familiar, but Shenzhen is like only 40 years old and was a fishing village before it became this megalopolis that it is now. And everybody here is a Waidian. Everyone here is from outside of Shenzhen. So I thought to myself, well, that's good for me because I can be a Waidian too, because I'm from outside. So definitely what you say is much more multicultural, I think. Yeah, you're close to Hong Kong, which is as Western as China gets.
Yeah, for sure. No, that brought us to the next question, right? There used to be a lot of Hong Kong professionals working in the Greater Bay Area for foreign investor there. But the rise of the local talents had meant that there was a lot of localization. So how do you see the opportunities for managers and professionals from Hong Kong, Taiwan, or elsewhere working in the Greater Bay Area in the future?
I think
Jackson,
that just comes down.
yeah.
I was just going to say, I think it comes down to the foreign investors' mindsets. What are they looking for?
Yeah.
I still have a lot of clients who would prefer to hire Hong Kong Chinese, Taiwanese, because they're of a more, I want to say, mature Western mindset. I don't know if that's the right saying to say, but it's they're more Western oriented versus necessarily the local Chinese. So I know that for certain companies, it's still something they're looking for if they're looking to localize in China.
And I just want to add that compared to like 20 years ago when Hong Kong professionals work in mainland China, people think you have superpower, right? They think you know something that they don't, and you automatically get a premium. Those days are gone. Now, if you need to have respect in mainland China, you need to earn it. So that means it's no longer about where you're from, Hong Kong, Taiwan, or elsewhere. It's about what skills you have and what kind of value you can bring to them. I still see quite a lot of foreign MNCs in China within like GBA or Shanghai or Beijing use Hong Kong professional because of their superior professional skills, like especially senior marketing and sales skills, especially related to financial services knowledge and skills. We still have a premium there if you're coming from Hong Kong. But for others, I think we have a level playing field. You just need to compete with all the rest of the Chinese population and show that you can add the value. So I think there's still a lot of Hong Kong professionals working in mainland China, and in GBA, the potential is substantial. Just that that the game is slightly different from before.
Yeah, for sure. I think the most benefit part advantage is to take the hybrid characteristic that Kristina just mentioned and getting into that skill set you have and make a value proposition from the opportunities for the professionals in the Greater Bay Area. So I think we will go into our last question before we close up. So there is a question about, it seems to be a challenge to attract Hong Kong talent. So coming back to the Hong Kong talent again, you know, it seems to be a challenge to attract Hong Kong talent to work in the Greater Bay Area cities in China. So what are some of the strategies that could help?
Everybody's silent.
I was ready to jump in on the last. I was ready to jump in on the tail end of the last question, but I'm not sure exactly how to address this one.
I think this one, for me, you know, like from being a sea turtle, right? Like I think it comes down to opening border, right? We all talk about the agility earlier. It's about, you know, the government policy. How do you relax up, and hopefully that will open up. And, you know, what are the company strategy can do to help out? So I think from a larger organization, to be able to help attracting talents is your business model. As how do you know, your operating model, how do you build your office, and how do you make sure that you give that flexibility to your talent to know that they're coming back, they can be moving back and forth?
Well, I think something that has to be addressed, though, would be the fact that, you know, there are a lot of, you know, in this day and age with social media and media in general, and swiping left and swiping right, and, you know, fast decisions and short attention spans, people paint everything with a very broad stroke. I think you have to do more to educate the people you're trying to attract to the area that they would be going to, pardon me. You know, I have a fantastic life here in China, and none of my Canadian friends back home believe me. They think that because of what they read in the papers and, you know, the situation here on the ground, you know, is basically I'm walking around with handcuffs on all day long, and I'm not. You know, I live a very vibrant life. I can have Sichuan food one night and Hong Kong tea house food another night, and I can go for a great schnitzel. You know, I'm a German heritage. I know where to get a great schnitzel in Dongguan if anyone ever wants to know, you know, the important things in life. You know, I've raised a family here. We have a very good lifestyle here, and that's totally attainable for people, you know, from Hong Kong or from anywhere, Taiwan, Canada, anywhere. You just have to come and maybe, you know, find your niche. And the companies that want to attract talent have to show the talent they want to attract that niche. You know, you don't have to live in a closet in Lohu. You know, Lohu is the first neighborhood in Shenzhen, but some people like that because living in Lohu is one of the most convenient neighborhoods you're ever going to live in, where you can just take an elevator downstairs, open the door, and, you know, you've got a million different places you can eat and shop. You can go to night markets. You can bargain dive, on the street on a night market, or you can go into Max Mara and go buy, and you can go to LV, all within
Yeah.
a 10-minute walk of each other.
No,
So
for
I mean,
sure.
I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah, no, thanks,
I think
Mike.
also
Yeah.
you've got to, I don't know if this is a strategy or not, but it's more, you want to also attract the talent that has an open mindset. Michael, you're very open-minded. Not everyone has
Thank you. I hope you can tell my wife that.
Not everyone has that level of mindset. I mean, I'm 17 years in Shanghai and I love my life there. And people also think I'm a bit nuts that I've stayed that long. My
Sure.
parents arrived in Hong Kong in 1969. They're 51 years in Hong Kong. People also think they're crazy that they're living in Hong Kong still and that they're retired there. But it's because they can't foresee a life. They don't have this open mindset in terms of what they can experience, new things they can experience. So, it also comes down to who you're interviewing, who these candidates are, and what do you want to, what kind, it's not just the talent and skill set, but it's also the mindset that you're trying to attract as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kristina. So any last thought before we wrap up as well, Jackson? Thank you very much for staying on, letting us, thank you, Ken Chan, for letting us overrun a bit here.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate, I think with all these opportunities and challenges, it's very important to have a talent strategy that is mapped to the business strategy, and then have a plan to overcome the challenges. I think the whole thing is fast changing and dynamic, but so long as we keep flexible and adjust our strategy, I think we can get there and thrive in the region.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Jackson. So as a key takeaway of today's webinar, the race of the talent in the GBA, I think we cover more than just the talent. We cover opportunities and, the innovative solutions that we see out there that could help with the challenges happening. Hong Kong is definitely a valid gateway to China and has a unique advantage to be the Asia headquarters. With COVID impacts every aspect of the world, doing business in the Greater Bay Area, businesses have to just look at their strategy and plan ahead. So thank you very much, Kristina, Jackson, and Michael for this comprehensive and informative conversation, especially Kristina, the early morning time in Europe. So Michael will come to you. We'll definitely, if we need schnauzer or if you want a double, we'll know where to come for you. So that concludes our webinar for today. I would like to thank our specialists, our panelist speaker, and in particular, a big thank you to you, the audience of the participation. So don't miss our upcoming events from Ken Chan in October, including leadership series, our Canadian Thanksgiving meet and greet. I hope that there's turkey there, Sonia, property market update, and more. So thanks again and have a great day.
And happy national holidays.
Yes, happy holiday as well.
Yes, I'm on vacation now. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.